Listen to me. What if I told you I have an opportunity right now that could absolutely change your life? You don't even have to understand it. You just have to understand the massive upside. So, do you want to act before the crowd catches on, or do you want to read about it a year from now and say, I really wish I had listened? Welcome to this explainer. What I just hit you with right there, that's just a tiny taste of the intense, high-pressure sales tactics that literally built a financial empire. Today, we are unpacking the incredible rise, the devastating fall, and the honestly unbelievable rebirth of Jordan Belfort, the infamous Wolf of Wall Street. As you'll see, we're going to learn firsthand how anyone can be sold absolutely anything, as long as you find their hunger. Success is everything, and if you're not winning, you're nothing. Now, this isn't just some generic motivational quote you'd see in a gym. This was Jordan Belfort's ultimate thesis for life. It was this exact, relentless, take-no-prisoners kind of mindset that fueled his explosive rise to the absolute peak of the financial world. But, as we'll find out, it's that exact same mindset that practically guaranteed his catastrophic fall. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, The Making of a Salesman, From Queens to the Pitch. To really understand the Wolf, we have to rewind a bit. Think 1962, a working-class neighborhood in Bayside, Queens. For most folks growing up around there, dreams were modest. Ambition definitely had a ceiling. But Jordan Belfort, he completely refused to accept that a ceiling even existed for him. Just look at his early hustle, 20 grand. That is how much he made in a single summer, at just 16 years old, selling Italian ices out on the beach. He actually enrolled in dental school later on, but literally walked right out on the very first day. Why? Because the dean stood up and said dentistry wasn't the path to getting rich. Belfort wasn't there to clean teeth. He wanted immense wealth. So he carried that totally relentless drive right out of college and launched a door-to-door meat and seafood business. We're talking no trucks, no storage, just scrappy, grinding hustle. And get this, he actually hit 100 grand a month in sales before the whole operation just completely collapsed into bankruptcy. But here's the thing. In the wreckage of that failure, he discovered his ultimate superpower. He realized the product itself simply doesn't matter. Steaks, surfboards, stocks, you could sell anything. Only the pitch matters. Section 2. The Penny Stock Kingdom, Unregulated Opportunity. Belfort eventually managed to land on Wall Street at a perfectly legitimate firm, LF Rothschild. But then the Black Monday crash of October 1987 hit, and he was fired. Now, while everyone else was mourning their careers, Belfort went looking for a new path, and he stumbled onto penny stocks. This was pink sheet garbage that serious brokers literally wouldn't even touch. But why did he love them? Because they offered massive 50% commissions. On his very first cold call in this totally unregulated arena, he gets a guy in Nebraska on the line, uses his incredibly fast mouth, manufactures this total sense of false urgency about an under-the-radar tech company, and bam, instantly closes him on 4,000 shares of pure junk. No rules, no regulators, he had found his kingdom. Section 3, The Stratton Oakmont Circus. Chaos meets ambition. So to scale this new empire, Belfort teamed up in 1989 with a fast-talking, snorting misfit by the name of Danny Porish to open Stratton Oakmont. The name itself, completely designed to sound like some prestigious legacy Wall Street firm. But in reality, it was a chaotic strip mall boiler room. They didn't bother hiring experienced analysts. Instead, they recruited bartenders, neighborhood hustlers, people like that. He wanted sheer hunger over experience. And he trained them using what he called straight-line persuasion. It's essentially a psychological pressure cooker designed to completely bulldoze a client's hesitation, drown out any doubt they might have, and guide a prospect from hello to where do I send the check in a single unbroken line. And this brilliantly illustrates how they actually generated their massive fortunes. It all came down to the pump and dump playbook. Step 1, target the forgotten investors, the working class retirees. Step 2, flood the market with manufactured excitement. They'd buy up these massive blocks of cheap shares, or real IPOs, and basically turn the sales floor into a hype machine. Step 3, once the price spiked from all that fake hype, they would dump all their shares right at the top. The firm made millions upon millions, while thousands of innocent investors were just left holding the bag as the stock inevitably collapsed. Now, with millions flowing in daily, the office culture completely derailed. It turned into this bizarre carnival where fear, intense loyalty, and sheer narcotics reigned supreme. I mean, we are talking about strippers in the conference room, champagne literally overflowing into the fax machines, and the extreme use of quaaludes to slow down, followed by cocaine to speed right back up. Someone even filled a fire extinguisher with whipped cream and tequila. It was an absolute testosterone-fueled madhouse. Section 4. The FBI closes in, smelling blood. So by 1994, Stratton was actually taking major companies public and pulling in some heavy national attention. But under the surface, the whole structure was rotting, and the SEC started flagging their suspicious filings. Enter FBI agent Gregory Coleman of the Financial Crimes Division. Coleman didn't just see red flags, right? He smelled blood. By 1996, he was quietly pulling wire records and tracking patterns of $50,000 cash withdrawals that Belfort was laundering through casinos. Belfort was getting incredibly desperate to hide the money at this point. He was even using couriers to smuggle cash stuffed in envelopes that were literally sewn into their bras. But it just wasn't enough. In October 1996, the hammer finally dropped and federal agents raided Stratton Oakmont. And while the FBI was methodically dismantling his firm, Belfort was personally unraveling at a terrifying speed. His wife was finding hidden pills and syringes all over their house. At one point, while completely out of his mind on quaaludes, he actually crashed his Ferrari into a pillar, with his 3-year-old daughter right there in the passenger seat. Against his captain's desperate warnings, he forced his massive yacht to sail straight into a Mediterranean storm, which completely destroyed the vessel. But the fatal error? In early 1997, explicitly against his lawyer's orders, while he was under active investigation, he wired $2 million to Switzerland. The feds tracked it, and that single transfer doomed the entire shebang. Section 5. The Fall in Prison. Flipping on the Empire. By late 1998, Belfort was finally cornered. The FBI had the recordings, the SEC had the filings, and he was staring down the barrel of up to 30 years in federal prison for wire fraud, securities fraud, and money laundering. So what did he do? Well, the ultimate salesman sold information to save himself. He actually put on a wire and handed over the very people who had worshipped him, the people who had followed his exact playbook to the letter. He sold them all out. Because of that, over 30 employees, partners, and friends were indicted, and some of them ended up serving significantly more prison time than he ever did. And honestly, the incredible irony of it all, despite the absolute massive scale of his crimes, Belfort only received 22 months in prison. And let me be clear, this wasn't hard time. He went to a minimum security facility with no fences and guards who didn't even carry guns. He basically spent his 22 months playing tennis in the mornings and lifting weights in the afternoons. Section 6. Selling the Wolf. Fraud to Fame. Now, while he was in that minimum security prison in 1998, he had a chance encounter with his soulmate, and it happened to be comedian Tommy Chong, who was actually serving time for selling bongs online. This meeting sparked Belfort's next grand pivot. Chong was so entertained by Belfort's wild stories of drugs, yachts, and insane amounts of cash that he convinced him to write them down. Fast forward to 2007, and he publishes his memoir, The Wolf of Wall Street, a book that honestly reads a lot more like a victory lap than any sort of real confession. And then came the ultimate coup. In 2013, Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio turned his life into a massive global blockbuster movie. The public absolutely devoured his unapologetic tales of excess, and just like that, the convicted felon was officially transformed into a celebrated pop culture icon. But, we really can't look at his fame without looking at the real-world consequences. On one side, you have Jordan Belfort. He's enjoying Hollywood fame, multiple book deals, and a highly lucrative career traveling the world as a motivational speaker and sales coach. But on the exact opposite side, you have his victims, the forgotten teachers, the war veterans, left with shattered retirements, completely lost life savings, and crushing debt. Those victims, they didn't get any movie deals. They were left with nothing. $110 million. That is the massive, court-ordered restitution Belfort was supposed to pay back to the very people he scammed. Yet even to this day, only a fraction of that money has actually been paid. The rest of it just vanished into offshore accounts, real estate trusts, and incredibly complex legal loopholes. He claims he's still working on it, but the reality is the victims are still waiting. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a deeply provocative thought, one that goes beyond the numbers and the Hollywood glamour. Did we ever really want him punished, or did we just kind of want to be him? Belfort didn't just escape justice, he sold it. He took 22 months in prison, turned it into a lucrative brand, and transformed fraud into fame. And honestly, maybe the scariest part is that society applauded it. It really forces us to question our own reaction to the story and why we are so quick to celebrate corporate criminals who live at the absolute extremes of wealth. Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.